Krash Kelly. Welcome, man. How's it going?
Thank you, man. It's nice to be here. And hey, thanks for the kind words.
Thank you, thank you. Well, it's an honor having you here, especially here at St. Edwards. I don't know if you've ever been to campus here.
It has been a while since I've been to campus here. I'm a Texas Tech Red Raider, graduated Texas State. But no, I've had several friends and actually have people that I know. And one of our interns at the radio station is a Hilltopper. So,
there you go.
so definitely very familiar.
Give him a shout out, man.
Man, I don't want to, because if I do it, then I'm going to start missing all the people. Then I'm going to get people getting ticked off that I got them wrong. But no, I'm native Austinite, so this is definitely no St. Ed's. I'm thrilled to be here.
Right on. So if anyone doesn't know who Krash Kelly is, he's one of the Austin's radio hosts, right?
I work for Bob FM. It's part of the Waterloo Media Group, and we've got a lot of different radio stations. I think 7, catch me off guard, 2 Spanish language radio stations, ACL Radio, Lucy, Bob, 101X, and News Talk, the AM news station. So we've got a lot of radio stations in the building and a lot of people we talk to.
So you know all the good stuff then, right? All the good music?
I don't know about if I know all the good music. I know a lot of music, but there's only so much I can keep up here.
All right. Well, once again, like I said, thanks for joining us today. It means a lot that we have you here. The Krash Kelly of Austin here in the Hilltop, right? So.
Hey, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Well, yeah, let's get straight to business, shall we?
All right. You got it.
So, if you can tell us, where did this radio journey start for you? Was there something that kind of pushed that for you?
Man, I tell you, it was in my blood. And people say that something's in their blood. My dad did radio and television, but I didn't grow up with my dad. And somehow I was still gravitating towards that. When I was in high school, I interned at a TV station here in Austin my senior year, which was great because I got out of school early and then I was done. I liked that. That was fun, the communications part of it, but the TV was stressful. And so when I got to Texas Tech, I decided I wanted to work at the student radio station there. And I said, you know what? I'm going to fight my way in. They wouldn't let me into this. It was a lab. I think it was a lab. And they wouldn't let me in because they're like, oh, you don't have the right credits. And I fought my way in because I wanted to do it. And once I got started playing music and talking on the radio, it was settled. I wanted to do it. And from then on out, I mean, it's been a long time that I've done that. And I can't imagine doing anything else. I tried for a little while. It felt like I was missing something in life. So it was something I wanted to do. Some kids grow up want to be a firefighter or a police officer. I wanted to talk on the radio, and thank God I get to still do it.
So over there, you mentioned that over there, I guess in your school, was it more of like a class credit that you had to do?
It started off as a class credit. I don't remember completely, but I didn't do very good at the class part, but I was pretty good at playing the music. The administrative stuff, I was like, I don't want to study for that test, but no.
It worked out now. Look where you're at now, right?
It worked out. I still don't do very good at the administrative stuff.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, again, for people who don't know, this is, a student-run organization here on campus.
Awesome.
So it's more that we do kind of take control of what we do and what we say here. Of course, we have those restrictions from St. Ed's, but for the most part, we are free to kind of, again, now here for the show, right? So we have control of that. So, fortunately, I guess not a class credit, maybe it is, I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. That's honestly, that's good. So do you plan to do this on for a while now?
I want to do this as long as I am able to do it. I mean, the business has changed greatly since I got into it. I mean, I've been doing it for 30 years and so much stuff has changed. I mean, so much stuff has changed the last 10 years, 5 years in the way people consume music, the way people discover music, the way people use the radio. I mean, radio is not the big music discovery device that it was when I first started in it, but also the notion that radio is dead is a little overblown because I see on a day-to-day basis things that each one of our individual radio stations can do, whether it be giving away tickets to Schlitterbahn or ACL Fest or one of the mini concerts or whatever.
Yeah.
The reaction is immediate. The texts are immediate. People come in, they thank us. So people are listening. It's still happening. It's still there. And as long as I'm able to continue doing it, as long as they'll have me, I'll keep doing it.
No, of course, yeah. I mean, it's always fun to always just jam on the radio. Sometimes it just kind of gets repetitive listening to my stuff. I figured just turn on the radio and it'd help all the time. I think that's the beauty of it. It's, would you say, free to an extent?
It's free. You make a good point because it's free. And what we try to do is we try to program to the people who they want something simple. They want something that they know, okay, whatever channel they like, whether they like top 40, country, 80s and 90s, like some of the stuff that we do. It's easy, it's available. They don't have to think about it. We're a button in the car or a companion in the office. Because those are our two biggest places that people consume my radio station is office and car.
Yeah, well, it's good. Like I said, I mean, it's very convenient. When again, the main thing is when I get bored of my music, I'm pretty sure a lot of people listening right now or reviewing, they get bored of their music all the time. So I figured, they might be wanting to get a change, kind of shuffle that a bit, and I think the radio is always a good way to get new music and everything like that.
And some people think that some of the stuff we play is boring and repetitive too, but believe me, I've heard some of the stuff more than anybody else after 30 years of the business.
So it's more repetitive for you.
Yeah, but I still will turn it up. There's songs I love, and there are not many songs that I really go, God, I can't stand it anymore. Enough.
So you just keep bumping to the music all the time?
Yeah, I do. I still do.
Right on. So was there anyone who kind of inspired you, perhaps, maybe to get into the radio station?
I don't really know if I had an inspiration per se, other than I was self-motivated to get into it. But I mean, there are incredible DJs who knew what they were doing. I mean, I wish Howard Stern is one of the ones who just does such an amazing. It's still at his success and getting out of traditional radio and getting on satellite, and the fact that he's just has an empire. And he's so good at interviewing and so good at being himself. He's just such an amazing character. So many of them out there, but I'm not really an interviewer like he is and that kind of shock jock kind of person.
Yeah.
But he is quite motivating to listen to. And believe me, when I listen to him, sometimes I sort of steal some of his, borrow some of his material for my show. Don't steal, borrow.
So like the main thing is, would you say just kind of just be authentic and to yourself? Would you?
Yeah, I don't want to be somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm a big goofball, and that's who I tell it how it is on the air. And sometimes I say something stupid. I'm like, I can't believe I just said that. But it's me, and that's the way I'm in person.
No, yeah, and I think it kind of, now that you bring it up, I know that we're kind of going to a little bit sports talk, not to get into it, but it's like when people kind of relate other people to like, oh, are you going to be the next so-and-so? It's like, no, I want to be Josh, or I want to be Krash. You don't want to be anyone else but yourself.
Yeah,
and that's
very much so.
And that's the thing. I think that you were trying to mention a lot, and that it's again, look at where you're at now, right? You're probably one of the biggest in the business here in Austin.
Well, I've been doing it for a long time. There are some amazing personalities in Austin. There are some amazing people in Austin who are much, much bigger than I am. But I've been here a long time. I've been blessed to be here a long time, and I've been employed in this business for a long time. But there are some amazing. I'm trying to think: Andy Langer, Jody Denberg. The list goes on and on and on. People who have been started, who can find bands, who have discovered artists, who've done so many things, and done it on the radio here. So there's a lot of amazing talent here. So I'm honored to be a part of that.
Right on. So, your name is James Parker.
That is correct. My legal name is James Parker.
So where did the Krash Kelly come from?
When I started at radio, I was working, I started at a student radio station. Then when I was still in Lubbock, I got my first real job, and it was on an AM radio station, and it played country western. I had no idea what the heck that was, but they didn't care what my name was, so I just went by James. Well, I finally moved back to Austin to go to Texas State. And I wanted to continue to do radio, and I wanted to. And so I got a lucky break at a top 40 radio station here, which is still on, it used to be called something different, but KISS FM. And when I went to interview, the guy goes, yeah, I like your demo, but that name is just, we're not going by James Parker. Now, when you come in and train tonight, I'll put what your new name is going to be on the door when you walk in. I walk in at midnight and it says Krash Kelly, and I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Who the hell is going to call me Krash? 31 years later, my mother, who is almost 91 years old, will every once in a while call me Krash. Oh, wow. So it's stuck. But unfortunately, I wish I had a better story about the name. I was named after a dog.
Really?
They're like, and I think it's probably a mutt. But it was the boss's dog was named Krash, and his best friend was Krash Kelly. They put the two together. They called me Krash Kelly, and I thought it was so dumb for the first couple of weeks. And then it sort of stuck. And then at the time I changed it they spelled it with a C, and I changed it to a K because at the time we were K96. So I thought it matched and would be cool with the radio station. And now it's funny, even all these years later, it's easier to introduce myself as Krash, even when I'm in public doing something that's completely outside the radio station, because people remember that name more than they remember James.
And do you sometimes accidentally go ahead and just like, I guess when say you're a bank or something and ask for your name, does it ever just come across as, oh, I'm Krash?
Yeah, I have. As a matter of fact, I was recently doing something with a bank, and I answered the phone. Hey, this is Krash, even though I knew it was, and I'm like, I mean James. And when I was a kid, my parents called me. My sisters and brother, and my mom called me Jim. So I mean, I know how I answered to every different. Hey, you. My parents called me my brother's name. I mean, so I answer to a lot of things.
But yeah, and for people who don't know, again, my uncle is very close to Krash, and
yeah, we've been dear friends for 15 plus years. He's one of my best friends.
And my grandma all the time.
Oh.
She's always like Javi, and I'm like what? And she's like, oh, I'm Josh. I'm sorry. And I'm like, what? No. And then sometimes my grandma would call my uncle like, hey, Josh, and then like, my uncle looks at my grandma like, what do you mean? No, like.
But you get used to the people that that miscall you by the name, and you just turn around.
Yeah, no, and so like I guess kind of still going on that question, is it more like there's a lot? I guess not that you're trying to expose the other radio hosts, but do they also have that name change too, kind of?
I think it's probably a lot less now than it used to be. When I started at Top 40. It was the early '90s, and radio was still a big place for music discovery. Still, we did lots of cash giveaways, and we did stunts and all kinds of crazy stuff because it was the main way people consumed music. I mean, yeah, CDs. I mean, we had cell phones, but they weren't smartphones. CDs were a big thing at the time, cassette tapes, but radio was still the place for music discovery. So it was cooler to have stage names, I think, back then.
Yeah.
I don't see too many people with stage names unless they've got some really jacked up, I don't know, some very weird name that's hard to pronunciate or hard to remember, or a deep family name that doesn't flow or doesn't roll off your tongue.
It kind of sounds like one of those. Maybe this ages me a bit with when I was younger, but it kind of sounds like perhaps like a gamer tag or something on the PlayStation or something like that. They have all those like crazy names sometimes.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it is a lot like that, because some people have the crazy names, and some people, it's like, I'll just be, I'll be Josh, 1844 or whatever.
Yeah.
So it just depends. It also depends on the format, and it also depends on people's personality.
Of course, yeah, definitely. I think that, and I guess the reason why you got your name, does this kind of stick now? Was it more towards the music that you produce now, or not produce, but rather play for everyone?
Not really. I think the name was just, they didn't like James Parker, so they gave me Krash Kelly. And there was one time I was working at a radio station, and he goes, that sounds like a kid's name, so I want you to go by, I think he was trying to mix my fake last name, the Kelly, which is not my real last name, with the real first name, and I'm like, this is not working. It's either I'm either going to be Krash or I'm going to be James, but one or the other. Let's not try to mix them, so it didn't last long. But yeah, the name really isn't associated with the music; it's just sort of stuck.
No, yeah, and the first time I got introduced to you, it was like, my uncle was like, hey, do you know Krash? And I'm like, Krash? I was like, what type of name is Krash? And I'm thinking like, okay, well, I've heard other weird names, interesting names rather. And I'm all like, maybe this is his name. And then it wasn't until I think a couple years later where I realized his name's not Krash, it's just his radio host name. And I'm like, oh my God. But outside of, you doing your life within your job, what do you like doing outside of it? Do you go to sports events, go hang out with friends?
Not a big sports person. I love hanging out with friends. I love to travel, and that stupid COVID put the kibosh on that for everybody. But I love traveling, love doing things, seeing things, and exploring new places and new opportunities. That's something I didn't discover until relatively late in life, that traveling was not as difficult as I thought it was going to be, especially some of the destinations that for the longest time I thought I wasn't able to be able to do that. That's my passion, is to do as much as I can do and see as much as I can see in the little bit of time that God has given us on this earth. I mean, just being able to get out and experience life is probably my favorite thing.
Right on. Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I know that, again, last week when they had that huge winter storm type of thing, it was literally probably, I think, the first time in my life where I actually saw snow, like snow. It wasn't any of this like, oh, my car is a little bit frozen. This was like actual snow on the ground. And to your point, where it's like, going around and viewing these things, it's like it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because for me, when I was there, I was like, oh my god, I FaceTime my mom and my grandma. I'm like, oh my god, guys, look, and everything. And I was just like a kid, and it's like I can imagine for you going out to these places and just learning and experiencing these things that are just fresh and new to you. And that's really awesome. I'm happy that you enjoy that.
And try not to be scared of different things, and just trying to experience the fact that we're all the same.
Yeah.
We just some of us live differently and speak different languages. And if you liked the snow last week, I'm glad you weren't here last year, because the snow last year, although I missed most of it because I got stuck, it sucked.
Yeah, I know that last year was pretty hectic.
Yeah, that was the snowpocalypse.
Yeah, they some people call it snowfin or something.
Yeah, snowfin. Yeah. So you were lucky you missed that one.
Oh man, down. I think I mentioned it earlier to the listeners. I want to say the first or second time I was live here that they had rolling blackouts, and in Brownsville. I don't know if Uncle Javi told you that, but it was just terrible because your lights would be out, and then like as soon as it just barely got warm, the lights would go out, and then you just get back cold, and you're just there finding yourself under a lot of blankets, and you're like, where am I gonna, like the food is all gonna go out, and it lasted about 2 days. It was terrible, and I was just getting super frustrated. So I hope that, I'm not trying to get too political, but I hope that eventually this will get fixed soon.
Yeah, I mean, we bought a generator this year just in case.
Yeah.
I mean, people are nervous, and people were nervous this last ice storm just because they didn't know what was going to happen.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, and to that, I know that
by the way, your Uncle Javi, if he's listening, he ate well at our house because he was at our house because he didn't have electricity, and we had a freezer full of meat, and he decided to eat the best cuts first, and I said that's totally cool. So, Javi, we got you.
You still owe him X amount of money for all that stuff now, right? But
he's taking care of a puppy, so all good.
It equals out, yeah. And I know that this past time when it was cold last week or the week before, I went to HEB, and everything like when COVID first started, when this whole snow thing last year happened, I was like, oh my god, people are literally freaking out again,
losing their minds.
Exactly, and I'm just there like. There was no toilet paper at all, and I'm just like, y'all are serious. I was like, it's terrible, because I was like, I'm thinking to myself like, really? I was like, didn't we not learn last year not to hog up all the toilet paper?
Well, maybe people are gonna burn it to stay warm. Who knows? That toilet paper thing, I do not get.
Right. But I guess kind of go more into your personal life. If it's more like if it wasn't for the radio station or anything like that, if you didn't get into the radio stuff, where would you think you might find yourself at?
I really don't know. There's a lot of things that I love. I love numbers, but I'm not good at math. I love fiddling with things and fixing things, and used to love working on my car, but I'd end up breaking it and having to take it to get fixed and pay more money than I would if I'd done it myself. I don't know. I probably want to do something that interacted with people. Although maybe now the way people are with some of the services, I don't know, but. I don't know. I think I would want to interact or want to do something where I could do something with my hands.
Yeah.
Build or repair, or I don't know. I really don't know, and I sort of ponder that. Like I always laugh. What's Krash 2.0 in case the radio thing does come to an end? And what do I want to do next? And honestly, I don't really know.
And when I went to your house the other time, and you and Charles were there, it was really awesome because you guys were literally fixing your yard. You guys had the whole the grass and everything, and I'm like, wow. I was like, I literally could not see myself doing that, because as me, I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure everyone knows I'm kind of lazy when it comes to that. So when I saw you doing that, I'm like, oh dear Lord. I was like, I feel for you guys.
I'm kind of cheap, so I don't want to pay somebody else to do it. So that's why we did it.
But I'm pretty sure it's fun though. I'm pretty sure like you had some time just to,
When it's 105 degrees outside, it is not as much fun. But it's
that day was 105.
Oh, I don't know, but well, sometimes it is. It's not that fun.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was just like. Usually, I know that my dad actually for the yard stuff, he got tired of pushing. Him and I got tired of pushing the lawnmower back home. So we're like, you know what? Let's invest. So we decided to invest in one of those driving lawnmowers and everything. And we're just like, it literally from the yard taking about almost 2 hours to do. It takes about maybe an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, especially like including the weed whacking and everything. So I was like, oh my god,
Yeah,
yes.
I'll do it until about July, and then I hire the neighbor kid down the street, and then it takes me no time because I just have to slip him some money.
Oh, there you go,
So,
right?
yeah, so when it gets hot, we decided we'll not be so cheap then.
Right on. Well, I guess obviously we've gone through a pandemic since March of 2020. We're about to reach 2 years already now.
Oof.
So it's frustrating. Everyone who's here or just in general is just suffering through that. So kind of now going through the pandemic, how has COVID affected your job, you as a person?
Me as a person, I made it through it because it was devastating to our industry. Because, like I mentioned earlier, most of our listening is done in cars and offices. There was nobody in their office because everybody was either let go or working from home, and there was nobody on the roads going to their office because everybody was working from home or unemployed. And it really hurt our listenership, and then our advertisers. All of a sudden, they don't want to spend money because they're hemorrhaging money because they don't have any customers, and they're just trying to survive on the government assistance or the government funds, the bailouts or whatever, however they could survive. And on top of that, one of our biggest resources is car dealers, and one of our biggest advertising clients. And the supply chain issues are still affecting car dealers, and they don't want to spend money because they don't have any cars on the lot. I mean, it's everything COVID has screwed us it's screwed every business. It's screwed all of our lives, one way or another. But it's been quite devastating, but we have recovered well. It's just like, I don't know. I don't want another variant or another surprise around the corner because I'm done. I think we're all done. And I'm not saying I'm not being reckless, but I hope we get to move on because I don't think we can all do this anymore.
And I think there's a conversation to be had. I mean, it's more that I think maybe you can agree with it, but if people just put politics aside, put their all this crazy stuff aside, and just say, you know what, let's work together. I know that in class, especially in my biology class, we all got together and we're talking about it, and just kind of like the polio vaccine, for example. Everyone kind of said, you know what, like, screw that. I'm tired of polio. let's get rid of it. And now it's a disease it's a disease that's now gone,
virtually eradicated.
Yeah, and the thing is that now it's like now more than ever, this is all seen as a political thing, and it's like, why would anyone think like that? It's annoying.
I don't get it. I signed up to be a part of the Pfizer vaccine trial in September of 2020. Before any of the political things aside, before it became right or left. I mean, we just signed up to do it because we thought it was the right thing to do and thought it would be cool to do. Had 3 shots. I got COVID, and I'm still, I'm done. But I did my part. But it's like, we've got to move on.
And I'm sure
and I never thought of it. I guess my point is, I never thought of it as a political thing. Never thought of it. And so many people I know do think that way. I'm like,
and it's crazy because a lot of the time, especially you're going to the university or doing any jobs in general, I'm assuming they require certain vaccinations to start working. For I think this one over here, they had the meningitis, and it's like, obviously it's going to save your life. There's no ifs or buts about it. And I think kind of what you mentioned when you did get COVID, you had all these vaccines, and look at you now, where you're having a conversation.
It was mild.
Exactly.
It was okay, and I was thankful that I got vaccinated, and I have my mask in my pocket. But we know each other if you're here talking to one another. But it's time to move on, and and I agree. It's so much of that stuff has been politicized, but it shouldn't have been. Everything's politicized nowadays.
It is
Whether the color of the leaf over there is yellow or green, somebody's going to think it's a made a political opinion.
It's like, oh, you think
it's
like
that?
God
Almighty, why is it not political?
Yeah, definitely. But kind of moving on from that, where do you? So when you are DJing, have you ever had artists come in? Actually?
Yeah, it's been a while because the music I play now is mostly we target 25 to 54-year-olds. So most of the music we play is some of the retro stuff, the 80s and 90s and 2000s. So it's been a while since I have interviewed artists. But back in the 90s and 2000s when I worked at Top 40 Music, interviewed artists, introduced people on stage, got to meet a lot of people, and that was really, really, really a cool time. And I was really something I look back very fondly on.
Yeah.
So I'm not a good interviewer. Um, I mean, I've had some good ones, and then I've had a really bad one where the band Backstreet Boys had just been introduced, a big '90s boy band, and they were apparently huge. This just to show you how bad of an interviewer I used to be. They started off and they were huge in Asia, and they had selling out tours all across Japan and Hong Kong and Malaysia and all that whole area. They come back to the States because they're from the US, and they're doing a tour. They're trying to get big around here. And I'm talking to them. I'm like, first thing I say to them, so how does it feel to come home and have to play at the Walmart parking lot after being in these theaters? And I'm like, oh crap! I cannot believe I just said that. Just came out of my mouth that I just asked him, how does it feel to play the Walmart parking lot after you were just sold out a 50,000 seat arena? And I remember they all looked at me like, you are such an ass. And I'm like, I did not mean it
To
that
their
way.
benefit, I mean, to their point or yours, Walmart's parking lots are typically big, right?
Yeah, they're pretty big. So yeah, it wasn't that bad of a boy. I was like, oh my gosh, I should have thought about this interview a lot better. And so I'm not a great interviewer,
Yeah.
and prefer to not do that so much anymore. When I say stupid, make stupid questions like that don't mean to sound stupid.
Yeah, and that when I'm doing these interviews, like even this one right here, I was just like, I went ahead and we have a group chat for the top radio, and I'm like, okay, guys, we have to figure out some questions because I don't want to sound here like an idiot. Especially the first one I had with the band Boy Scott. I had seen him previously in concert in this past November, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to sound dumb. So the album they had onto their Spotify, I was studying it kind of like a playbook, kind of, and the same thing kind of goes with this interview too. I mean, I obviously we know each other, and it's like, okay, well, he's the radio host. I went on Google and I'm like, what to ask radio hosts, right? And everything. And I was just thinking about it because it's like I noticed every person, every band is different, and I think that's what gives them character. And
I'll tell you something. The fact that you do your homework, that the artists appreciate that, because there's nothing more. I've seen it where artists get asked a really smart question as opposed to there's some people who ask boxers or briefs. It's like, no, nobody cares. That's
yeah,
just. But when you ask about what their first album meant to them because the first release was about a breakup of a girlfriend or whatever, and they realize you've done your homework, you're going to get a lot more out of them. So that is doing that research for the bands. I guarantee you they
No, yeah.
appreciate it.
Definitely, and I think that's something that with Boy Scott, when I talked to them about it, they're like, oh my god, yeah, this song. And then last week I had Bunny Boy come in. He's a relatively small band, but he's very good. I guarantee he's probably gonna end up popping off sometime. But either way, there's this one song where I was telling him, I was like, I've listened to it, because he has such an interesting. I think you should probably check him out. I don't think it's not for everyone, but it's one of those songs that are just very interesting and kind of weird, but awesome at the same time. It's called "The Gackle of Goats,"
I like it already.
and it's literally about. I told him about it, and he was like, "Oh, that song? You want to know what happened?" I'm like, "What about that song?" He was like, "That song, what you're hearing is actual goats, a goat giving birth to another goat." And he's like, I just put a piano thing in the back. And I'm like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm not even joking." And I'm just like, to your point, he's like, "Yeah, if you know what you're talking about with them, they'll go with you into that."
And then they'll talk more about the things that matter to them, and they'll give you a better interview.
Exactly, and that's the one that lasted 2 hours. That's the one. And I mean, again, I always mention it. I'm privileged to have this platform to talk to people and interview them, because it's like not a lot of people have that privilege like I do. And I'm here sitting, fortunately, with a set here, with the people here, and that's something that I'm happy about. And I want to go ahead and take advantage of that to. After I'm graduating and gone from the school, I like to give this to someone who's just going to be as enthusiastic I am to want to do this stuff. So that's something that I'm really
leave a little legacy.
Right? Yeah. No, those are over there. Those two little papers next to the Sal right there. We have those were the first ones. Those were the first. I was super scared, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta write something. The kind of beginning. It's 34 degrees outside here on the hilltop, and I was just like so scared. But now I kind of understand what you mean. It kind of just comes naturally. Kind of, you got to let it code through and just do your work on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I try to do. And See, you and I are talking naturally, and that's the
Yeah.
way. And I sound more excited when people say, "Give me your radio voice." I mean, I
Give me
can't.
your radio voice,
I mean, I can't. Sometimes I can't help it. If I see a microphone, I talk a little more excited. But no, that's what it's all about. People want to be talked to, not talked at.
Yeah, definitely.
And listening to what people have to say is awesome. People love to talk about themselves.
They like the little daily couple gossip, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So I'm guilty of that. I think everyone is when you see something, you hear something like, let me listen a little bit more. So I can say, but yeah. Is there any stories you'd like to share in terms of your radio? Is anything funny? Anything memorable, perhaps?
You know what you asked me this question earlier, and I really thought I had. I mean, other than making an ass of myself for the Backstreet Boys, I don't really have anything that I wish I had some good juicy stories. I mean, I don't really.
Yeah.
I've got cool stories of being able to introduce bands. I mean, because it's the one thing about me is I don't mind getting on the radio and talking and knowing that there are thousands of people that are listening, but I don't see them because I'm in the studio. But much like this room where
Yeah.
I've got monitors and speakers or whatever, but it's I don't have people in front of me. But to get up in front of an audience and introduce a band at the Alamo Dome, I got to do that. In Sync and I can't remember what the other band was. Gosh, I'm pulling a blank, but that was back in the day when I worked in San Antonio. But scared the heck out of me to get up there on stage with all these people. But as soon as I just said, "Hi, I'm so and so," Krash Kelly from at the time it was Mix 6.1. Here to introduce one of your favorite bands, and the place erupts. It's like, okay, I'm not scared anymore. So those were always the coolest moments. Is when you get a warm. Where all of a sudden, when you go from nerve wracked to, oh my gosh, they like me.
Yeah.
Those were the neatest things, and meeting some of those people and some of the biggest bands and some of the biggest artists that they aren't jerks. They're really nice. They're regular people. Their management is sometimes jerks because they're sort of like Secret Service. They got to keep people away from them and
keep them in check. Yeah.
Yeah, because there are some people. Some people will throw themselves on a musician.
Oh my god. There was this one time I had gone to see Surf Curse. It was like a band I saw back in 2019, and those people literally. It was at the Barracuda. I don't know if you still remember that one. It was in 7th Street.
Okay.
I had like the little colored patterned windows. I went there, and people would literally get on the stage, while they're performing, and just crowd surf. Other people were busy hugging the guitars. I'm like, "What are you doing, man?" I was like, "Leave them alone. You don't want to."
Sorry, I want to make sure it's not your Uncle Hobby calling and saying you're not telling me about this one story. It's not.
No, but yeah. So the idea was that I can understand that, and to your point too, with the whole talking to a whole audience, it kind of brought back that memory when, and it's not that big, but it's more when I was in theater. I was in theater in high school. I was mainly working with the lights and everything, tech wise, and my director's like, "You know what? I want you to go ahead and work on do your own solo act." I'm like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah." So,
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. So we go ahead and he's like, "This one right here is gonna be your own. You're gonna be the main star of it." And I was like, "Are you sure I can do that?" So literally, before I started, I was shaking, like my hands were violently shaking, and as soon as I got into the stage, it just kind of flew off a bit.
Yeah, just. It melts away.
And there was this, oh my god, there was this one line because it was supposed to be a political show, and I was supposed to be selling, not that I believe in this, but I'm supposed to be selling Mexicans to these white people, and they go ahead and I totally forgot. There's one of my friends, his name was Ed. I totally forgot to go ahead and I forgot the movies that his character was in. So I was like, oh shit. I was like, what do I say? And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking like, come on. And I know the line's coming up, and I'm like, you know what? Forget it. So I'm like, oh, perhaps you saw him in Alien versus Predator, Rambo. So I just started just saying stuff like that, and it was just like random stuff, and it was good. So it kind of
if it flows, that's all that matters.
Right.
And if you say, and also if you say something wrong, but if you say it with confidence, nobody knows the difference.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. No one knew that I was the only obviously the people on the stage. My director was like, she said it wrong. But when I went to talk to him afterwards, he was laughing. He was like, "You killed it. It was you. I didn't. Everyone thought you were serious." And I was like, yeah. So to your point, yeah, it kind
Just say
of
it with confidence.
it flows off really easily when you're there on stage. And weirdly enough, again, I'll be working South by, and my uncle was telling me because he's gonna be my manager. So I'm like the manager, but he's my manager. Point is, he's all like, if stuff hits the ceiling, he's like, you're gonna have to go to the front of the crowd and tell them, introduce the movie, and if worst case scenario happens, you're gonna have to do the Q&A. And I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so he's like, the best thing you need to do is search up the movie, the director and everything, and get questions right then and there. And I'm like, God, I was like, I would not be prepared at all.
I'll tell you what, your uncle is good. He's gonna work you. He's good at this
He,
stuff. He
he,
loves doing that. So
yeah,
be
no,
prepared.
I know he's listening probably right now, right? So he's already did my schedule. I'm already ready for that.
He probably didn't give you any special treatment.
Oh man, I wanted some days off, but he was like, I need you these days. And fortunately, the concerts I'll be going to are at nighttime. One's even starting like at 1 in the morning.
God, Javi, you can be nice to your nephew.
Right?
Please. It's about who you know, friends and family. Come on, take care of your nephew, man.
But yeah. So Austin's a huge city. It's about like 1.4, 1.3 million people in
A
here.
little over. Yeah, that's about a little more than that in the metro.
So you're a key part of it, I would say. And so the idea is that, like, how do you build up such a positive reputation with people?
I try to be a nice person because it's a lot easier to be nice than it is to be mean. I try and be generous, and I try not to, and I don't get involved in any kind of scandal and secondly, the most important thing is, you talked about political earlier because I'm still shocked by the play that you were doing. We don't do anything political on my radio station. Absolutely nothing left, nothing right. I mean, straight down the middle. I mean, it's rainbows and unicorns. I don't care. Everything else. We didn't. I did my best to not say the word COVID. We tried to be an escape from all that for people who are listening. So the fact that we aren't political at all or try and just be middle of the road, I think that gives us a better reputation because no matter what you say, you're going to piss off 50% of the population if you try and be political.
Yeah.
So we are trying to be right down the middle and only make the 1% who can't believe we're rainbows and unicorns. Well, the heck with them.
No, yeah. I mean,
but I think that's, we try and stay out of trouble. We try and stay away from any hot button issues. I absolutely avoid hot button issues and just try and have fun.
Yeah.
That's so I don't know if that gets us respected. And I appreciate you saying that. I just, we just try and stay away from scandals. My people I work with are great people and hard workers, and also avoid that stuff. So, yeah, I work with great people. I'm surrounded by great people, so that helps. And when you surround yourself with great people, it makes you look good.
No,
and they definitely help support me.
No, yeah,
help. I mean, they do support me. I mean, my friends, family, and coworkers, they're all wonderful, and they all make me look good.
No, yeah, definitely. I think that's a very good strategy because I know that a lot of people are very, if you say something they don't like, they're gonna get really pissed. I think that's something that I've learned here, and a lot of the time, here at St. Ed, it's a very liberal school, so we do kind of speak our minds on stuff like that. Not trying to put anyone on blast here at all, but I know there's a lot. There's one here radio show that does talk politics and everything, and we try here to kind of look at it with angles. We can't just look at it at one because you'd be biased. But kind of given what I was mentioning earlier, it's just like if people can literally just put their differences aside and work together, which realistically is probably not going to happen because people are just always butting heads all the time.
And COVID's made it worse.
Exactly. And it's just like, we wouldn't be in the position we would at right now. In fact, I don't think we'd ever be having this conversation at all. So, it kind of goes back to what I was mentioning, how privileged I am to have a platform like this and talk about stuff like that. And I think that something I've learned, and I hate to bring it up because I'm a huge fan, but I don't know if Uncle Javi told you about it. I love the Idols. They're kind of a band that I follow. And they're more that it's more of like a prog, like what progress rock is or prog rock is.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like that, where they give these political, songs, and it's just like we shouldn't be afraid to be who we are, who we truly are, and express ourselves. And
Rock bands were doing that in the 60s.
yeah, and I mean, I just coincidentally just because the thing about it, I think like Uncle Javi just told you, I've come from a place that's very kind of conservative in a sense, where if you're remotely even different, yeah,
I've heard.
if you're remotely different, they're gonna start throwing sticks and stones at you. So it's like coming up here was such a culture shock to me because I was like, everyone. I think one person even told me you have to be a special kind of weird to be weird here in Austin. So, but yeah, to the point. I think if everyone can just put the differences aside, I think that's just generally. I mean, um, I think that's a really good thing that we could do. As like mentioned earlier, if we can just stick together as a community and work towards goals, I'm pretty sure we would all be in a better position for sure.
What sucks though, sometimes in the media though, in the media world, polarization makes money. And, so I think some of the people on those far right media outlets, I think they even say crazier stuff because
Oh my god!
because that's just shit. Look at that. I slipped out in front of a microphone. But that's what gets traction.
Yeah.
The crazier they can say something, the Alex Joneses of the world.
Oh my god!
I mean, he's batshit crazy. I mean, he's, in my opinion,
Yeah.
I think he's crazy.
No, it's not. It's
But
factual because I mean the guy literally lied about the school shooting, and I'm like, they're paid actors. I'm like, why would you?
But the crazier stuff he says, the more traction he gets.
Exactly.
So, I think a lot of media adds to that because, he's also making a ton of money selling all the products that he sells during that
Oh my
podcast.
God.
So,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think media helps in that regard too. So,
Yeah.
I think, we all gravitate to what we believe. So,
No, yeah.
again, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to talk politics, but that's,
No, yeah.
again,
Definitely.
why I like to stay in the middle. We don't do anything. It's,
No, yeah, definitely.
I laugh about the rainbows, unicorns, because we walk in here, it's all happy.
Yeah, no, you leave all your problems outside
Yeah.
the door.
Yep.
You come in and just share the.
Yeah, have fun.
And that's the thing I also do. Music is just something that everyone can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
I think generally, yesterday when I had gone to go see Kansas, everyone kind of seemed like they put all the differences aside.
Yeah.
People were just going around and just singing, and I'm just like, see, if this was what it was like, it'd be awesome. Because everyone, rather than just be like at each other's throat, it felt for a moment that all of the problems that were going on in the world just kind of stopped. And maybe it is Kansas, maybe it's the wonders of that music, but it was just very awesome. And
I don't know if it's the wonders of that music, maybe the wonders of the generation that grew up with Kansas because they're a big 70s band. I don't know, but
yeah.
but everybody had one thing in common. They were there to see a band that they, 99% of them knew this, almost every song, probably were singing probably every song. So they all had something in common, and that commonality was on stage.
You should have seen one guy. It was so funny. I mean, I thought it was wholesome. He goes and when I forgot what song it was because again, I don't listen to those type of bands. I mean, the only reason I know of Kansas is because when in elementary, my dad would drive us to school, and we would always hear that in his Jeep. So when one of the songs there, some guy was just there dancing, literally with like air drumming, air guitaring, and everything, and I'm just like, and the people, he was in the front row. So the band members saw that and were pointing at him, and he was just like, you just see him just all taking him in the moment. And again, I think just that's how the wonders of music affects people. And I think that's also kind of what makes your job so unique, because it's like you get to connect people regardless of what they believe in or what they do. You get to connect people with this wonderful stuff that everyone hears, everyone can relate to. And I think that's something that I've talked to a lot of bands about, and I'm like, the music is just amazing, and people can relate to it to a certain extent. It's kind of like, again, here I am with me and the Idols again. I relate to that to an extent because it's like, again, the whole toxic masculinity when I was there back in my hometown was very like, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, you're not a man. And you're like, what? And here it's like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be you. It's okay. And that's the beauty of this of music, because people can relate and enjoy it. So that to that extent.
No, I love it because that says a lot, because I hope that the next time I play Kansas on the radio station, that man that was in the front row does the air guitar and goes crazy on his steering wheel or in his office or wherever he hears it, because because that even old people like me, when we hear the songs like that and they take us back, it makes me feel like a kid again, because it puts me back in the place where I was when I first heard that song.
Yeah.
Not necessarily Kansas, but
Oh No, definitely.
But you're right, music is definitely a unifier.
No, definitely. So as far as when you're working, um, how does like an idea come up to play for your job? Like, do you kind of come up with it? How does that idea get from paper to an actual action?
Well, the music we play is, I mean, I'd love to be able to tell you it's free form and all that kind of stuff, and I just pick what I want to. But there's a formula because there's only so many songs because we're commercial. We're in it to make money, and we're in it to
Yeah.
get the biggest audience possible. So we're making sure we're playing the right songs at the right times for the right people. But we try and mix it up as much as best we can and put in new stuff, take out some old stuff, and we try and keep it fresh. But there's a lot of stuff that we write in between the songs, and we try and have some humor with that. We brainstorm. We'll sit down and
Yeah.
my coworker Evan and I, he and I are both sort of both complimentary, weird with one another. We complement each other with our oddness and uniquenesses, and so we can write some pretty good scripts together and some pretty good stuff. And then the stuff we say on the air, anything I'm saying on the air, because I don't necessarily do a talk show like we're doing here. I mean, I talk over the beginnings of the songs. If it doesn't entertain somebody or enlighten somebody,
Yeah.
if it's not informative or makes you laugh, I just that's what I prefer to do is try and make you go, oh, I didn't know that, or I give you something you could use on on a Jeopardy question, or if I can say something funny that'll make you laugh and make you smile and maybe
Yeah.
bring some joy to your day. That's what I try. That's my sort of gauge on what I try and say.
No, definitely. I think that's great because I mean I think the biggest memory I had when I was younger was is that song every single morning. I remember it. It was around middle school. Yeah, it was like Wild 104.
Uh-huh.
That's what that was the Valley's party station. And every morning they had "It's Your Birthday" by I forgot. It's your birthday, or I don't know what it was. It was.
Oh, 50 Cent?
Yeah. That one right there. And it's like "Happy Birthday to Vanessa from Brownsville" and everything. It's just like those memorable stuff. And to your point, it's like people will remember that because it sits with them. And I remember that one time when I was in high school, I called in and they actually had me on there. I'm like, oh, I was frozen a bit. But it's cool because it's like, again, and I think that's kind of something that I also do like with bands too. And I know I'm kind of mixing them together, but it's more that when you interact with your audience, it makes for a better time.
Yes, very much so. Because I 100% agree with that.
Because you just don't want to be like, again, talking and be like, oh, here's the next song.
Well, what does your audience think? What is their opinion? What
you want
share?
Feedback.
Yeah, share. Do you disagree with me or not? Yeah.
Go on Twitter, right, and everything.
Yeah. And if you disagree with me too much, I'll block you. But it's getting feedback is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why with me, I like to go to like little concerts that are like artists who are kind of known but not too well known. Again, it's like that one band, the Surf Curse. I've known them when they're like at 200,000 followers on Spotify. Now they're at 8 million. So I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know if I can go back to their concerts the same way I felt, where it was personal. But either way, the point is when I was there, I literally took a picture with the drummer. I gave him drumsticks. He took the time out of his day to come to me and be like, I really do appreciate it. The same thing with the Idols. I went and took a picture with them, and the drummer. We talked for about a good 5 minutes and everything. We were talking about, hey, he's like, what are you gonna? He's like, so what do you do? How's the tour and everything? He sat down with me and talked and everything, and he offered. He's like, do you want these drumsticks back? I'm like, I bought them for you. And he's like, no, I mean, like, when I'm done, do you want them back?
Oh, no, that's cool.
Yeah. And I'm all like, no. And so he went ahead and he was jamming it so hard he broke the sticks. And he just flinged them in his bag and just got some new ones and started jamming out again. But yeah, the point I'm trying to make is it's important when you have a connection towards your audience. Because again, you just don't want to be doing something kind of boring and repetitive, and it's just not fun.
There's plenty of that in the world.
Yeah.
Boring and repetitive. There's plenty of that.
And I guess it kind of brings me to my show here, this whole all access garage. The idea was that kind of what you were mentioning. It's more that I don't want to go ahead and just make something that everyone else did. I'm not trying to. There are some people here who are listening. They're from the top of radio. Not that I'm trying to give any shade whatsoever, but it's more that with me, it's like I want to be kind of different. I want to, you have this awesome platform you can use. You have this awesome, stuff that not a lot of people are privileged enough to use. And it's like, why don't you use that to your advantage?
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned to you beforehand, rather than just sitting here and playing the same music over and over when the next person could be playing the same thing over and over again, why don't you have people come and talk? And so that's the engagement I like, because it's like I get feedback from my friends, my family. A lot of people are like, "You could have done this better. You could have said that better. You could have maybe perhaps said this question instead of that question," and it builds me to want to do better and have more people. And fortunately, I have a lot more people coming in due to that. So it's obviously working. And again, I know I'm kind of going more towards me, but I'm just kind of understanding your point where it's like you want that engagement with people, and that's what makes you such
Authentic.
yeah.
And see, now, all these years later, I bet you could call into that morning show and do the birthday thing and not be freaked out on hold.
Yeah, there you go.
And
Right.
you'd be like, "Oh, I got this."
Right.
So because you're authentic and being authentic, and I guarantee you, the musicians that you're talking to and doing stuff with, they appreciate it.
Of course, definitely. I think that's something that I appreciate, because again, it's I think something that, again, here I am with the idols again, right? You're going to always hear me talk about them, but they've always mentioned how it's not the it's the people who go ahead. It's the people who make the artists. It's the people who again, they give them feedback. They talk to them, and he was like, make sure when you're doing that, you go ahead and you talk to them, and like, or rather, you're the one who makes these people who they are. You give them that platform to talk and enjoy themselves. So it's like, why not when you're doing that, give them some good, valuable feedback, and that's what I'm taking into consideration.
That's awesome, and you're taking advantage of it.
So, as far as you though, still talking about ideas here within the whole, everything going on. Is there any favorite ideas you have in the radio station? Anything like perhaps gonna be a holiday? You're like, oh, this, we're gonna do this or that.
We've tried to do a couple of things outside. A little, I hate it's so overused, outside the box, but not with my particular radio station. It's we're real traditional. I don't. We've tried to do a couple of different things, but it just doesn't land well with
Yeah.
our audience, because they just expect a particular. And then I'm not saying our audience is boring or whatever, but they have a particular expectation of us, and if we drift too outside of those lanes, it's uncomfortable for them. So I don't have any big plans other than keep playing the hits and try and be entertaining and do stuff. I mean, we used to do cash giveaways or what have you, but COVID has killed budgets and
Oh, definitely.
yeah. So
Yeah.
those are all a thing in the past, but we plan on just continue to have some fun. But yeah, nothing. We don't have anything big and crazy. Those. Unfortunately, like, I blame it on COVID again. So many of those things got cut with budgets and personnel cutbacks, and so
And so would you say kind of like the radio business is kind of slowly coming back from the damages of COVID now?
I think so. So many people have also regionalized from the big conglomerates like iHeart, where they're now doing one show out of Bobby Bones does a big show out of Nashville.
Yeah.
He started in Austin. And I worked with a super nice guy, a super talented guy, and now he's out of Nashville and has a nationwide country morning show, and he hosts all kinds of country country shows on like Nashville or the American Idols of country. But I
Yeah.
don't know I don't know all the shows' names, but
Yeah.
so many of those companies have regionalized and shrunken their staffs. So I would say radio is making a comeback, but doing it at a reduced capacity, which I think is not beneficial to the audience.
And you think, given that now the streaming platforms have hurt radio to an extent?
Yeah, there's always been another thing that's hurt us. It's not necessarily hurting radio; it hurts everything. It doesn't hurt. It adds to the consumer's experience, because you now have multiple platforms where you can get music from.
Yeah.
In any number of places. I mean, I can play music off my watch into my earbuds. I mean,
Yeah.
it's and not touch it. I mean, which is unfathomable to my parent, to my
Yeah.
mom. But there's so many choices out there. I think radio will continue to be around as long as we have a place in the car, as long as we're free, and as long as we stay relevant.
Definitely.
And the one thing about radio is, and thankfully, it is I don't want to just say it's the only thing you can depend on in an emergency, but it does seem like when you can't charge your phone, we can't do this. Yeah, you could. I know when hurricanes have hit and there's been major devastation in
definitely.
areas, that radio still has a place there.
Yeah.
So I think that there will always be a place for radio, no matter, no telling what the world's going to bring in 20 years or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, competition. Yeah, we've got a lot of competition. There are a lot of different things fighting for listeners' ears. As long as we stay relevant, well, there'll be a place for us.
And especially because a lot of the time you mentioned how your music's more towards 80s and 90s. A
Mhm.
lot of the people there still kind of do listen to the music then. So I would assume, given that what you're saying is you're still kind of thriving at that point.
Yeah,
Like,
we're trying to target that listener who they may have a young family.
yeah.
They would, they may work 2 jobs. They've got so much other stuff going on. They don't have time to. They don't have time to curate a Spotify playlist.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to pay for the data plan, or I mean, everything's unlimited now, but it's just they've got so much other things on their plate that the music discovery is the
Yeah.
furthest from importance. So they'll go to the easiest thing possible, and that hopefully is Bob FM.
Yeah. I mean, I again kind of talking about it more. I know my mom. She buys Spotify Premium, and she goes in and she's like, I don't know how to work this thing. And she goes, just every time it's at the car, I expect her to just put any of her music on the radio. She's like, no, we're listening to the radio all the time. I'm like, Mom, you have Spotify. And she's like, so? And then she just started putting Sirius XM and just in all these other radio stations and everything. So
because it's easy.
It's easier, definitely.
And it's familiar.
Exactly. Yes. So you mentioned you've been here for 30 years, kind of doing the radio shows. Do you have any possible like songs? Anything you would recommend? Songs, albums?
I wish I had something for you. I don't. For a little while, I was able to program one of our HD stations. We have secondary HD radio stations at the station at my radio station, and I was for about 10 years. I got to program an EDM. It was dance, but it was dance EDM, and I really did enjoy that genre. Unfortunately, that has gone another casualty of COVID. So I haven't gotten in that realm of the Vicis and Kaigos or whatever in the past couple of years, but that was the only other newer music that I really liked outside of the older stuff that I play. But yeah, I wish I had something I could recommend now.
What are you listening to now in the car though? What is typically something that?
Well, because I manage the station, it's always on Bob.
Always on Bob.
I'm pretty much always on Bob because since if we go off the air, I'd like to know if there's something askew. I want to know about it first. So it's my baby. I make sure that it's good. So I would love to tell you I listen to something more exciting in the car, but
it's Bob FM, right?
It's usually Bob FM because I'm not going to give my competitors my ear.
Oh no,
I don't want to give them any of my ear time. So, but yeah.
No, yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, I know, but yeah, I know. Me, it's when again. I think it kind of goes back to what I was mentioning how, kind of like you. I would like to give you something to also do, but it's more that I don't have anything because I like my music, but again, it's just I listen to all this stuff and also just do my own thing where I can't really give a direct answer, kind of like what you're mentioning too. So especially with school being super hectic now, I'm a junior right now. I'm going to be senior next year and graduate then. And it's just like
congrats.
And it's just literally like I'm just staring at my work and I'm like, music's in the background, and literally now, like not more than ever, I just kind of don't have time to do much. Literally, just probably like the time that I'm doing right now, or say when I'm sleeping, those are the only free time I have. So to an extent, I can understand what you mean for sure on that. But
yeah, I look, I'd love to discover some new music, but they've done some kind of study that there is some point in most people's ages that many people stop caring so much about discovering new music, and I might be past that age.
Oh,
I appreciate it, but
yeah,
I'd rather go out to dinner than load up my Spotify playlist. So.
Yeah. So given all the success you have now, what kind of words of wisdom would you give your younger self?
Words of wisdom for my younger self.
Or any advice in general.
Never give up. Be true to yourself. Work ethic, integrity, Um, yeah, talent. Excuse me. Talent can be taught. I mean, you know my stubborn dogs, and
Oh yeah.
believe it, I teach those dummies how to sit. I mean, that's a talent for them. I can teach those hard-headed dogs how to sit. So I firmly believe talent can be taught. Work ethic can't really be taught. It's you have to learn that a little. I mean, I guess that's teaching, but I think just be true to yourself, work hard, and keep moving forward. Persevere. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Because there have been a number of times in this industry when I was starting off that I wanted to just sort of. It seemed like I was just treading water, not getting anywhere, and then 5 minutes later, promotion hit, or I said no to one thing, but then another opportunity opened its doors, which was an even better opportunity. So perseverance.
Yeah.
Um, I never expected to get rich off of this, but I sure, and you know what, and do something you love, because when you do something you love, going to work every day doesn't suck.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
so that's another thing I was about to say, because I knew, and this was a fight that I had with my dad before he passed, you know, he told me not to get into the industry that he was in. He said, "You're never going to get rich or never make money doing it." I am rich. It makes me rich here because
Yeah.
I enjoy what I do. And
Exactly.
so that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Don't give up on your dreams and do something you want to do.
Exactly. And I think to that point, I know that the doctor I was working with, because I want to be an emergency room physician. And she straight up told me, she was like, "Look, this job's not for everyone, but she's like, if this is something you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life." And it's like, I think to that point, you know, you go into the studio all the time, and you're like, you mentioned how many connections you have there with your friends in there that just make you feel at home.
That is my happy place.
Yeah.
Walking into my studio in the morning, it literally is. I walk in, turn on the monitor, and you know, get everything. I'm like, dude, I look around. I'm like, still my happy place. All these years later, you know, I'm still, you know, loving the music and loving it. And I love the people I've worked with too. I've also worked with some great people that have been there for quite a while. So I am truly blessed, and I know I'm lucky to be this blessed, but I persevered, and it's paid off,
Yeah.
and hopefully it will pay off for you and for everybody else that does.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I think the one thing that we've all realized, especially going through this pandemic, is as long as you keep your head straight and just keep on going, you know, pushing regardless of. I think one thing that that one of my principals in middle school, I remember all these things, but he goes and he tells me, he's like, life is gonna hit you like waves. He's like, one's gonna crash into you. Some can be bigger, some can be smaller, but it's your job to just get up from that water and continue.
I like that. Well, we had a tidal wave 2 years ago.
Oh, here in Austin?
Well, no, I mean,
Oh.
with COVID.
Oh
with
yeah,
life in general,
yeah.
but dude, that's great, because things do hit in waves. But yeah, just always bounce back.
Of course. But as far as right now, any closing thoughts or statements for you? Anything you want to plug? Perhaps you want to go and do something?
I'll be on the air tomorrow, 10 to 2. But other than that, you know, listen to Bob FM, and we'd appreciate it. We are locally owned and operated, without a big conglomerate. Actually, yeah, Waterloo Media. That's the cool thing. We are owned and operated by a local organization, and every one of our stations is locally programmed and run. And so even with all the big conglomerates in town, I'm happy to say that, you know, I'm not on a Zoom call from Nashville somewhere. I'm here in Austin. I go to work here in Austin. All my coworkers live and work in the area, so that's the cool thing. But listen, we're live, local, and we appreciate it.
There you go, right? I mean, it's always supporting local stuff is always the best thing you can do.
Absolutely, yeah. No matter whatever your locality is, support local first.
Of course. Also, just give a quick shout out to Uncle Javi, who's listening probably, right? And maybe Charles too. Maybe he'll end up watching this video or something.
I hope so, and I was just double checking it. Let's see. Oh,
did he say something?
Yeah, I do have a suggestion. Yes, Charles made a suggestion, but I'm sorry I missed that 30 minutes ago. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh, so Charles is listening.
Yeah. I had a suggestion on there.
Well, yeah.
Edwin McCain. There was something about that's an artist from the '90s that I can't remember what we were talking about then, but. Yeah, he was a good one. We had a concert with him in San Antonio. Oh God, I'm going to throw him under the bus. God knows. I hope he doesn't. Well, it's okay. His time has come and gone. and he wasn't supposed to be drinking, and he got just hammered at this nightclub and left his credit card. And he called my cell phone. He's like, "Don't tell anybody that I was drunk, but I left my credit card at the bar. Would you please get it for me?" Never got it back to him. It's still hanging on my bulletin board in my office, my board in my office, because he was so hammered. Oh, and he was wanting to make. I don't know what exactly which question you're asking about. He was God. He wanted to make out with my best friend. He came up to her and he's like, "I'm a 30-year-old fat guy that sings ballads. There's not a lot of time left for me. Come on, make out with me." She's like, "Ew." So, bless your heart, Edward McCann. I know you're so great. You got some good music, but yeah, that was a fun night. That was back in the day. So, I think that's what Charles might be talking about.
Yeah, well, no, Charles, like I said, you, Charles, and especially your dogs, you always have a place in my heart.
Well, thank you, Ed. Likewise.
And I know that, again, just to reiterate everything, Krash is a family friend, and your husband, Charles.
Yeah.
And they're always, I love calling them my uncles. They're really close to me. They're always, if there's anything I know I can rely to you guys. And hopefully, I know I'm just a college kid here, but if there's anything I can do, let me know. I'll be more.
I appreciate it. You're not just a college kid here, man.
Yeah.
You're kicking butt. But you will continue to kick butt.
Thank you. Well, right now, like I said, thanks for joining us here at St. Edward's University, at Top Radio, and here on All Access Garage.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
It's a project that is still going on, and hopefully it will go kind of like what you're doing, continue on for a while.
Josh, I've had fun. I could go. I'm glad I didn't go for 2 hours, because I want to bore the hell out of everybody for an hour and a half.
Oh no, everyone was having fun. I'm pretty sure everyone probably in the group chat probably talking about it. So.
All right. Well, only share any good stuff with me. If anybody has anything bad to say.
If they say anything bad, I'll make sure to come talk to them personally. Be like, "Hey, what are you trying to say, man?"
And if this Edward McCain guy calls, he goes, "I got to talk to that Krash Kelly." So I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you're talking about James now.
Yeah, James. Yeah, go find him somewhere else.
But once again, thanks for joining us, and I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
You got it. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it.
All right, so just remember, tomorrow we have Brutus 8 coming in, and then for other guests, we do have also, what else do we have? We have This Cold Night, actually an Austin native too coming in. And we also have Milk coming in. So those dates will be revealed soon, but as far as tomorrow at 3 p.m., we have Brutus 8. Until then, we'll see you guys later, and have a fun one.